and they're very good sermons and very important sermons. But today I actually want to kind of go the opposite way, and we're going to talk about the key to unhappiness. So we're going to identify that key. Well, there's a lot of them actually, what causes us to be unhappy. But we're going to talk about one specific thing that as a whole can kind of mess with the joy in our lives, the happiness in our lives, and just that can lead us to like a derailment of our faith. So like when a train derails, that's bad. So if your faith derails, that's bad. Okay? So we all know right now we live in like this social media type of world, right? Very technological. Everyone is always on technology, posting everywhere, and all of it is curated, so it's tailored for us, right? It's tailored to show us a specific person's lifestyle. They post how they're living, all the amazing things that they're doing, and if we think about it, right, they don't usually post bad things. Like if you open up someone's Instagram page, I don't have Instagram, but I'm assuming, because what I see on Snapchat and stuff, like people only post the good things, right? Oh, I'm here, I'm in Florida today. Look at my Lamborghini, my big mansion. The guys always post all the girls that are around them, you know, all the money they have, and it's always the good things. So it creates kind of this little museum, right? These Instagram pages are like this little museum that is like a highlight reel of someone's life, like the best moments of their lives, and they only post that. And we know this because we know what we post if we do post, right? We don't post bad things that go on in our lives. Oh man, got in an argument with my brother today. Hashtag, you know, we don't do that. Yeah, we don't do that type of stuff. So we know this ourselves. We know that people, we as people, we post good things to show people the good that's going on in their lives. But for some reason, when we look at these pages, we forget that these people also only post the good things. And this kind of creates like this idea that these people have the best lives ever. They are always happy. They got no problems, even though we know that that's not true. But when we look at these types of pages, we forget this. And this creates a feeling of discontent with our lives. Oh man, why can't I have a Lamborghini? Why can't I have a bag of money and a huge mansion and a bunch of girls around me? Man, that sucks. And it creates like this feeling of discontent, right? We don't feel content with our lives. We're not satisfied with what we have. And a term that our generation kind of uses for, not specifically this, but guys, have you ever heard of the term FOMO?
No.
Fear of missing out?
Yeah.
So it's FOMO. People say, "Oh man." So it comes in a lot of our generation. We use it for like for small conversations. Oh, they had a party and I couldn't make it. I had it's like anxiety from I missed that, and there was something important going on and I wasn't able to make it. That's FOMO. But today I'm not gonna talk I don't want to talk about like these little instances of FOMO, like where it's like, oh, there was just a party and I couldn't make it there. But like as a whole, like just missing out on life. The fear of being a loser is what I call it. So faux ball. Fear of being a loser. That's what it is, right? Because the social media, it portrays this picture that they're so cool and awesome, and we eat that up with our brains, knowing that that's not even true. All of it is rented cars and blah blah blah. But we want to be like them, and this FOMO that we get from this fear of missing out on these amazing things that life can offer each one of you. If you pay $900 to my trial right now, then that's us missing out on that. It can lead to a potential for ruining our faith. And today we're going to talk about how that feeling of FOMO can lead to ruining our faith. So if we look at the real definition of FOMO, it's actually called anxiety that an exciting or interesting event may currently be happening elsewhere, often aroused by posts seen on social media. So it's specifically tailored to technology, right? This term. It's clearly talking about social media. You see posts on social media that somewhere something is happening, and you're not there, and you feel awful that you can't be there, you don't have that. And it's ultimately defined as like a fear of being insignificant or excluded from something or forgotten by your friends, right? If your friends forgot to invite you somewhere, that's FOMO. So it's a fear of being insignificant. And I'm not saying that social media is bad. Social media is good in its own ways, and it has a lot of cool things that you can do with social media. And FOMO, it doesn't. I'm not saying FOMO only pertains to social media. Like Solomon says in Ecclesiastes, he says, "There's nothing new under the sun." If we look at Adam and Eve, they were kind of the first people that experienced FOMO, if you think about it, because the devil came up to them and he was like, "Hey man," woman actually, he was like, "God's not giving you everything. You're missing out on something. Eat this fruit and you'll have it, right? You're missing out. You could be like God." So he put this feeling of FOMO in them, that they're missing out on something, that God's holding back on them. God's not giving them everything that life can offer. And what did that lead to? Ultimately, it led to them ruining their relationship with God completely. Them being kicked out of paradise, where they had everything. Them now being able to die, being able to know what good and evil is, having to work super hard, and just ultimately it brought sin into the world, which is literally why all bad things happen. It's literally the answer. Why do bad things happen in this world? Because of sin. Even with hurricanes and stuff. That's because we are a sinful human being. We deserve that type of stuff. So, and FOMO, this fear, right, that we have of missing out on something in life, it's so effective for us because our nature as human beings is to always find something our nature as human beings, it offers us always things that we think are better than serving God. So we always think, oh, this will give me true happiness. This will satisfy me more. But ultimately, that won't satisfy you because we know from all the sermons about key to happiness that what truly will satisfy you? Serving God, right? And having a good relationship with God. So in our lives, we look for the right job and we try to find the right spouse for ourselves, a husband or a wife. We want success. We want to make money. Maybe we want to lose some weight. We go to the gym, right? And all those things are very good. All those things are very good. And it's not wrong to look for a good job or to have success, have money, go to the gym and lose some weight. But the problem comes in is when you identify what's driving you to achieve those things. Is your drive good? Is your drive to, why are you trying to become successful? Is it so you can make the most money and rub it into your friends' faces that I'm so cool, I have all the money and you are a loser because you did nothing. Right? Is it that, or is it because you want to use the wealth that you hopefully achieve through God's blessing to then help out people, to raise a good family, right? It all depends on what's driving you to be what's driving you towards these goals, right? Towards getting a right job. And you guys can ask yourselves in this, is like, what's driving you towards these things? And be honest with yourselves. Like, why are you trying to achieve the certain goals that you're trying to achieve? So it's like, even for me, right? Okay, we go to the gym. Why do you go to the gym? To be healthy. Yeah. Okay, that might be true to a certain extent, but ultimately, there's a small part that still I go to the gym. Why? Because I want to look better there's still a different type of drive, right? There's another drive that's technically not an important one. It's not important, and I shouldn't be going to the gym to try to look better or it should be a good drive. So we have to be honest with ourselves. Is what is our true drive for trying to achieve the best job? Going to the gym. Why are you going to the gym? To show off, or what are you trying to do? So it all depends on the drive, and we have to be honest with ourselves. So FOMO, this fear, right? This bad drive, right? I have a fear of being fat. I see all these 6-packs on Instagram, and I just want to look like them, and I want to get super buff, and that drives me to go to the gym. And that's not important. That's not good. And this fear of missing out on having a 6-pack can actually lead to you, and on anything, fear of missing out on having a Lamborghini, on having money, it can lead to jealousy, vanity, just your life being pointless. It can lead to you doubting, starting to doubt what's going on, like what is your true purpose. It can lead to you being way too prideful with how you act around people, and it ultimately it changes our priorities, what we set in life to be the most important. What do we prioritize? And this fear, this type of fear, that's not just, like I said, it's not we're not talking about a small situation where someone didn't invite you to a party. This overall just fear of being a loser, right? That type of fear, that can lead to a very dangerous place, especially when we're talking about our faith and our relationship with God. So if we ask anybody today out in the world, I feel like a lot of people, if you ask them how their day is going, a lot of people will answer busy. Unless they don't want to talk to you, but they'll be like, yeah, super busy, we got so much school, we got so much work. Hey, maybe you're just a nice guy and you say yes to everything. And that's fine. You have so much work, you have so much school, and we're working constantly, and that puts us aside from the good things in life, right? We don't dream anymore. We don't there's never a time where we just sit down. When's the last time you just sat down, other than in church, to daydream?
Yesterday.
Yeah? Today?
After I did all my homework, yeah.
But I was just saying, a lot of times we consume, right? There's never a dull moment. We're always, the phones, there's always something to look at. There's always something to look at. There's always you pick up your phone, someone's picture to like, someone to text back. Oh, someone posted that they're in Florida on Snapchat. Let me ask how they're doing. There's always something to look at. There's always something to do, to look at Facebook, anything. Play video games, whatever. There's always something to do. We never have a dull moment in our life where we could sit down and think about our existence, except, right, as Christians, we come to these type of places, right, Bible study. But a lot of people, they get so worked up that they start missing this stuff. They put reading the Bible, they put prayer, they put Bible studies, church, they put it aside because they're so busy in life. Because they're chasing something, and if you ask them what, they're like, I don't know. And that's the problem. It's mindless. We're in like a plug and chug, we're just always busy, always looking at stuff, and it's a mindless life. And it doesn't make us any happier. We look at all of these pictures, we look at all of this amazing stuff online, and we set all these goals for ourselves, and it doesn't make us any happier. And the fear of missing out on this, it fuels this, because we have such a big fear on missing out on our goals, on missing out on everything that life has to offer, that we push other things aside, and we make those our priorities. And you're basically fueling your unhappiness. That's why I call this the key to unhappiness. Because you have this fear, and you're using that fear to fuel your goals, but that's not making you any happier. You're just living a life that's how we're about to read. Solomon calls vanity. And Solomon, if we look, is very familiar. Yes?
You're becoming a loser.
Yes, exactly. Solomon is very familiar with this idea of FOMO, actually, of fear of missing out. If we open up to Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 1 to 11, and then we're also going to read verse 17. But, yeah, I'm going to read it.
Chapter 2?
Yeah, chapter 2 from the first verse. And this is Solomon speaking, right? And he says, chapter 2, verse 1.
Yeah.
Just one?
It's
No, from verse 1.
after Deuteronomy. It's like all the way.
It's after Proverbs.
Nope.
Okay, we're going to read.
What verse from again?
Ecclesiastes,
Chapter 2?
chapter 2.
Oh, wait, no,
from
it's
verse
not.
1.
It's after Proverbs.
From the Proverbs.
I just said it.
Okay, they'll catch up.
It was my fault.
I said to myself, come now, I will test you with pleasure. So enjoy yourself. And behold, it too was futility. I said of laughter, it is madness, and of pleasure, what does it accomplish? I explored with my mind how to stimulate my body with wine, while my mind was guiding me wisely, and how to take hold of folly, until I could see what good there is for the sons of men to do under heaven the few years of their lives. I enlarged my works. I built houses for myself. I planted vineyards for myself. I made gardens and parks for myself, and I planted in them all kinds of fruit trees. I made ponds of water for myself from which to irrigate a forest of growing trees. I bought male and female slaves, and I had homeborn slaves. Also I possessed flocks and herds larger than all who preceded me in Jerusalem. Also I collected for myself silver and gold and the treasure of kings and provinces. I provided for myself male and female singers and the pleasures of men, many concubines. Then I became great and increased more than all who preceded me in Jerusalem. My wisdom also stood by me. All that my eyes desired, I did not refuse them. I did not withhold my heart from any pleasure. For my heart was pleased because of all my labor, and this was my reward for all my labor. Thus I considered all my activities which my hands had done, and the labor which I had exerted. And behold, all was vanity and striving after wind, and there was no profit under the sun. So we see that in the first 10 verses, right, Solomon lists all of these things. He pursued literally everything under the sun. He built himself everything. He was the richest person in the world at the time. He built parks, he says, parks. He had all the women in the world, all the Lamborghinis, all the gold, all the mansions. They were all his, literally. And what does he say in verse 11? That behold, all was vanity and striving after wind, and there was no profit under the sun. So none of this didn't bring him any more happiness than he thought. He was building up this kingdom. He had everything in the world, and for some reason it wasn't satisfying him. It still was vanity. You know what vanity means? It's just nothing. It means that it's nothing. And striving after wind, can you catch the wind? Has anyone ever caught the wind? No. You could catch it and then open up the jar and it'll like give you a fan.
Sometimes.
No, I don't think so. Right, but that's not wind. You can't catch wind. It's a pointless activity. You can't catch wind, and vanity is nothing. So all of these things that he was doing to satisfy himself, it brought him nothing. And we can see that in verse 17 of this same chapter, he even says, "So I hated life, for the work which had been done under the sun was grievous to me, because everything is futility and striving after wind." So even it comes to the point where he says, I hated life because it's pointless. I do all of this. I have the most money in the world, everything I wanted, and I'm not satisfied whatsoever. So what's the point of life? And we can see that he discusses through all of these chapters, he keeps on discussing this idea of that it's vanity and the importance of wisdom and difference between folly and wisdom. And he kind of regroups and he presents what truly satisfies you, which is written in Ecclesiastes 9, verse 7 through 9. And to me, this is like my motto for life. I really enjoy these 3 verses. Verse 9 is like an extra, but 7 and 8 are very important. It says, "Go then, eat your bread in happiness, and drink your wine with a cheerful heart, for God has already approved your works. Let your clothes be white all the time, and let not oil be lacking on your head. Enjoy life with the woman whom you love, all the days of your fleeting life, which he has given to you under the sun. For this is your reward in life and your toil in which you have labored under the sun." So Solomon regroups, and verse 8 is the most important in this. He says, "Let your clothes be white all the time, and let not oil be lacking on your head." That's what's the most important. That's what will bring you satisfaction. Because if you keep the right relationship with God, and you keep your clothes, what does white clothes mean? It represents purity. It represents being holy. And keeping oil on your head, that represents being like you're being blessed. When they put oil on your head, someone's blessing you or they're praying for you. So when we stay holy, when we stay pure with our relationship with God, that's what truly is going to bring you happiness. He says that's your reward. But that reward comes what happens in verse 9, he says your reward in verse 9, that only happens if verse 8 is accomplished. If you keep what it says in verse 8, where you keep your clothes white all the time and let not oil be lacking on your head. So you stay holy and pure before God. And this is what Solomon says is truly can satisfy us. But FOMO, the fear of missing out on life, which was Solomon talked about before, it does the opposite of this. We always are trying to look for something better, right? And when we look for something better, what it causes in us is that it causes for us to not be present. We start to be so fearful of missing out on things that we start to not be present in the real moments that occur in our lives. Because the best moment is occurring in your life, but you're still looking for something better. You're around all your friends, you're having the best time ever. It's an amazing memory, but you're looking for something better. You're complaining about something. It's always it's not enough. And that causes you to not be present. You're not cherishing all the moments that occur in your life. It puts you in like a standstill where you're not in the moment. You're not in the moment. It distracts you from what actually goes on in your life. And you live kind of this distracted life that you're not even present in. You're always looking for something more. And like we talked about on social media, right? Social media pages, they look like it's all happiness, right? Every single post is about, look at my new Lamborghini, look at this, it's all happiness. But we know that that's behind the scenes, that can't be true, right? There's not a single person in the world that hasn't experienced some sort of hardship in their life. Right? It's not all happiness. They just don't post about it. Okay? Just because they have bad moments. They just don't post about it. And fear of not missing out, what it causes for us to try to live this life of happiness, right? Of only happiness. Because we see all this happiness around us, and we're confused of how come I don't have all that happiness? How come I have hardships? And it causes for us to live like this kind of fake and ungenuine life of where we only talk about the good things that are going on, and we pretend that everything is all right in our lives when it's actually not. And that creates this ungenuine life that you live if you have this fear of missing out, because you don't want to miss out. So you just kind of you push things aside. Like, I'm kind of surprised with this actually, but like FOMO, right, the fear of missing out, can actually cause us to not be committed to something, right? So like if your friends don't invite you to the there's a party going on, has no invites, anyone can come, and all your friends went and you didn't, you can still go, right? But just because you're so fearful of missing out, that fear eats you so much that you just don't go anyway. So this fear of missing out can actually cause you not to be committed. And this, if we're talking about just the relationships between humans, that's disrespectful to your friends, right? Because all your friends went and you're not going because you're, I don't know, just this fear of missing out, is this anxiety that occurred in you is eating you down. But when we do this to God, that's even more disrespectful. That's why in James 1:8, it describes these type of people that can't commit themselves to God, that they're 1 foot in, 1 foot out, that they know about God, they know that that God is the way, but they're so afraid of missing out something in this world, that there's relationships, future spouse, activities I can do in this world, that they never fully commit to God because they're so fearful of missing out on what the world can offer them. And James 1:8 says that these people are being a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. So that's what these people are. They're unstable because they're not committed because of this fear of missing out what's in the world. Because they're missing what's in the world. And what it also can cause, it causes for us to have jealousy and envy towards others. We look at other people's lives and they're so happy, and then we start being jealous of what they have, and then we start saying to ourselves, they don't deserve this. I deserve this. I need to have this. Why do they have it and I don't? That's not fair. I want to make millions too and have a Lamborghini. And Proverbs 14:30. My translation is kind of different, but it says,
Wait, what is it?
14:30.
Oh.
A tranquil heart is life to the body, but passion is rottenness to the bones. So I don't know why my Bible translated it to passion, but in Ukrainian it's zazdrist, which is literally like jealous. It translates envy or jealousy. Right? I don't know why my Bible says passion, but right, envy, right? Envy is rottenness to the bones. It rots you. It rots from the core out, right? So that's why it says, and then this envy, again, it fuels this FOMO. It fuels this fear of missing out. So we start striving, trying to gain all these millions of dollars, these Lamborghinis, these mansions, and we're not happy in the end, we're not satisfied. That's why in Matthew 16 it says, what profit it is to a man if he gains the whole world, but what? Loses his what? Yeah, loses his soul. We gain everything, you gain the whole world, but you did nothing with your life spiritually, you don't know God, and you're not satisfied, because ultimately happiness comes from who? God, right? Happiness comes from God. So we know all of this, we can see that FOMO is not good, right? This fear of missing out of what the world can offer, it can lead to a very big, like I said, derailment, right? Where your faith is derailed. It can cause your faith to weaken, to fall off track, because you're so invested into what's going on in the world and not invested in the relationship with your God. So how do we combat this fear of missing out? This fear of missing out of unworldly pleasures. We know it's a natural process, right? It's natural. It's normal to feel this way because we're humans. We see and it looks good. I want to have it. Why not? I want to be a millionaire and do whatever I want to do with my money, right? It's nice. It sounds very nice. But a lot of this striving, right, towards that stuff, this fear of missing out on being a millionaire, it can bring a lot of negativity into our lives. So what we have to do is, like I said before, right? I said when we ask ourselves, what is the drive towards your goals, right? We have to be honest with ourselves. So if we're having FOMO, if we're having this fear, we have to admit it. We have to admit that it's not good, that I'm striving way too hard that you're pushing other things aside. You have to admit that, why did I stop reading my Bible? Why am I not praying? Why did I stop going to Bible studies? Something's wrong, right? It's a bigger problem. It leads to a bigger problem. We're going to talk about this soon. And we try to cover it up a lot of times. When we have a problem, we don't want to face it, so we kind of soften it. Yeah, it's just my goals, and I'm working hard towards them. I'm self-made. I know I need to work myself to achieve what I need to achieve. And we try to cover things up, but you know that you can't achieve nothing without God, right? Because God ultimately blesses you. You know, fun fact actually, the word blessed in the Bible, if you go back to the Hebrew root of the word, it's a word for the same, I don't know how it is in Hebrew, but it translates two words, the same exact. Blessed and happy. So it's the same word for both of those words, blessed and happy. So the Sermon on the Mount, where it says, blessed is he who this, you could actually plug in the word happy for all those. Happy is he who blank. Happy is he who, So our happiness, it only comes when we follow those things, right? When we don't cover up, when we listen to what God wants us to do. And we have to admit that in our lives, that your blessing, your happiness can only come from that, not from you striving towards being a millionaire, okay? God chooses if you're going to be a millionaire or not. So, and we have to break away from triggers, like any form of sin, right? There's a trigger. So we know that, right, social media, I look way too much on it. YouTube, I watch way too much of it. Break away from it. Fast from social media for a couple of days. So you try to clear up your mind. Go for a nice walk in Elmer Park around the lake. It's very nice, guys. Okay? Go for a nice bike ride, something. Get your mind off of that stuff and just think about your relationship with God. Pray while you're on that walk. It'll be very helpful for you to build your relationship with God. And one of the most important things that we have to do is we have to stop being the victim. FOMO, the fear of missing out, is all about me. I need to do this. I need to stop. It's not all about you, okay? It's not all about you as a human being. We want to not have this fear of missing out, then let's focus more on other people. If you focus more on your friends and the interest of your friends, helping others, being kind to others. We talked about joy. Peter preached a while back. We talked about negative thoughts, right? If we